7 names, no games as I run it down the line. We got Kenny Ken, put 100 on the T's with the streak for the cash. ESPN, Seth Curry with the shot. In reality, he's more like Seth, but he's all we got. Up next is Gentleman Jack, better known as Junior Blue. We told him not to do it anyway, but he did what he do. To his right is Devin, that dude, Eldad or Dirt Ass Dan. Just don't ask him a question, cause then he'll answer your question with another question, and then he'll add another question on top of that question. Damn. And I'm Red O, the Buck Wild Problem Child.
Flow Butter, aka John Cutter.
It's the league ambassadors, and we playing to win. At the 2-yard line, and make no mistake, we running it in. Pete Carroll, we see you.
Thank you for visiting 32 Kings Road, hosted by the League Ambassadors. I'm Ambassador Kenny Ken, and it is my pleasure to be here today with my brothers. This is episode 48 of our show, and today we will continue our NFL International Series preview by discussing the history of Junior Blue's Oakland Raiders.
What you mean Oakland Raiders?
Los Angeles Raiders
/ Las Vegas Raiders.
Las Vegas Raiders.
We'll also look back on week 1 of the NFL season, as well as look ahead to week 2. But first, as a reminder, you can follow us everywhere on social media. Our handle is @TheLeagueAM. That is Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Please check out our website, theleagueam.com. Please take advantage of the online blog spot that we have, Diplomatic Community, which is located on our website, where fans can make submissions of all kinds about anything going on in the world of sports. If you got something to say, we want to hear it. Also, please subscribe to and like and rate our channel on YouTube, League Ambassadors. Let's get this show going. Red O, what you sipping on, sir?
I'm sipping on the legendary Gentleman Jack.
Yes.
It's definitely legendary. Also sipping on defeat. And there's a point where sometimes you just have to tip your cap to the enemy who defeats you. So, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, sir. Fuck that. You hoe ass, bitch ass. I hate your ass. I hope you get ran over by a bus.
Kev, what you sipping on, brother?
What's going on, gentlemen? And look, tonight I could tell you this is juice, but based on my outfit, it could only be Corona or Avion Tequila.
Yikes!
But it is what it is. But tonight, though, I want to give a special shout out, a special happy birthday to the greatest free safety to ever play the game, and that is Mr. Edward Earl Reed Jr., number 20 for the Baltimore Ravens. Happy birthday, Black.
Dad, what you sipping on, sir?
Well, after a few days of heavy libations, I am drinking on H2O because my liver said nah. But what I'm sipping on is the fact that me and Kev are the only league ambassadors that had a team win this week.
Petty ass.
Petty Eddie.
Are we sure?
Right.
Oh, you're right. Foreshadowing for something later, maybe. But yeah, I'm pretty happy about even though it was the worst team in the league, we showed up. So that's what I'm sipping on.
Junior Blue.
I'm sipping on this Tennessee honey, and I'm also sipping on a 2014 NFL draft scouting report from Mr. Derek Carr. It said he has a brilliant arm, but when he's pressured, he becomes highly inaccurate. Well, 4 years later, nothing's changed.
Amen.
Junior Blue is out here airing out dirty laundry.
He aired it out Monday night.
Oh, did he?
Or did he not air it out?
Jesus Lord.
I'm sipping on a little bit of Jack Daniels. I'm also sipping on the aftermath of the U.S. Open women's final between Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka. Naomi won in straight sets.
Haiti, stand up.
6-2, 6-4. And, let me be clear. She played a phenomenal match. She was well deserving of the win. She had a great tournament. However, in the second set, down 3-4 with Serena, chair umpire Carlos Ramos called a series of violations against Serena that ultimately resulted in a game penalty. Those violations were she was penalized for receiving coaching. She was penalized for slamming her racket after a bad point sequence. And then she was penalized for berating the official after calling him a thief, among other things. Now, after reading an article on Tennis World USA, I learned a few things. First thing I learned was that a coaching violation, which is what really set everything off, is something that is rarely called and is actually allowed in non-major tennis events. We already know that tennis has a major problem when it comes to, how shall I say, perceived sexist standards.
It ain't perceived.
I'm about to say, it's not at all. I think the word is inequity.
But the other thing that I found out in this article, and I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to throw a question to you guys, was that Carlos Ramos, he only got paid $450.
$450.
I'll say it again. $450 for an American professional event. That was his rate of pay for that job. Now,
I mean, only, but that ain't that bad.
learning those two things and understanding the history of tennis as it pertains to impropriety around betting. I'm just wondering, does anybody else smell a dead cat on the line?
Well, anytime you would pay me $450 to do something that the whole world is going to criticize me for, you can almost guarantee that I'm getting money from somewhere. Not only in America, but we know the stigma around international sports and international officials. I think that's an interesting point, Kenyon, and I'm glad you brought that up because although first off, I do think tennis does have a sexist issue. That's just flat out the way women get treated, the way they're compared to men. We've had this conversation on the show before. I think the way that they treat Serena is almost like it's okay to make her the scapegoat. And if at any point in time an official is going to incorrectly make a call or influence the outcome of a match, who better to do that against than Serena?
That's what I'm saying. And it was, and make no mistake, it was definitely influential because Serena had lost the first set. She was coming on in the second set, and it was probably headed to a third set. So for her to lose a game at 3-4 pushes Naomi to 5-3, and effectively the match is over. I'm just asking questions, Dad.
Well, I watched that whole thing, and I have to say that she was getting her ass whipped.
No, she didn't want that smoke.
Right. So and all those violations are things that they're the right call. They're not always made. Now, from what I know and did some research about this particular chair judge, he's a dick to everybody.
Yep.
Now, I will say that I think that she kind of, in my personal opinion, that she handled it not the way that I would have handled it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she was wrong in some of the things that she said. Now, the biggest problem that I have with regards to sexism with how she was put into light was the fact that if you look at anything that John McEnroe's ever done in the last 40 years,
Andy Roddick.
It's way worse.
Jimmy Connors.
Now, they are penalized for those same things, but it was never said that they had meltdowns and the things that were said about how she reacted.
Right.
Now, I thought she was pulling every card in the book, and I felt like she should have done that after the game, because no matter what happened after that point, it took away from what the young girl did.
I felt bad for her, for Naomi, because she was up on that stage. She couldn't even be happy. And that's a crazy. Now, they were booing her. They were booing the judge, actually.
Right.
But, I mean, she couldn't be happy, and she was winning the match. We all know how tennis goes. Men going to get paid more than women, even though they bring in similar ratings, which to me makes no sense.
Right.
Another thing I don't understand, why is it illegal to coach?
Hello, somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's you can stop worrying about it. That's never going to change. That's just something they do. The thing about women getting paid equal, they can play the same amount of sets as men. They can get paid equally. That shit can stop too. The thing about Serena is, and the Naomi, men have been in that situation before. Naomi could have. I understand Naomi feeling bad, but she watched that shit. Right? Like, she saw what happened. And at the end, I don't care what anyone says, you're out there on the island. Because of the way tennis rules are, there's no coaching, there's no teammates, there's nothing. You're out there on the island. So sometimes you just want to fight, and not, especially when you think there is something that is causing you to lose that is not in your power. Because in tennis, it's all about you. So when you have that emotion and the history that she's trying to make, I understand wholeheartedly the reaction she had. Now,
not to mention to stay with that. Not to mention that it was at a critical moment in a match. She was coming on, and that game, penalizing her for that game, it's over.
It's over.
So I'm with you, Omar, from that standpoint.
Why would
go ahead.
Why would her coach admit to coaching her?
Because it wasn't.
Well, he said it.
No, wait. First of all,
he said because everybody does it.
Thank you. And first of all, it's exactly what you just said. It's something that is done on a regular basis. That what's his name? The guy 450.
Carlos Ramos.
Carlos had a bone to pick, and he chose to pick it at that moment.
Or Kevin, did he have some money on the way?
But listen, if he didn't, he does now, because the reaction from all of it was that I think the WTA and then the USTA both sided with Serena, claiming that her, supporting her claims that sexism exists and she was unfairly treated. But then now umpires are looking to form unions because they believe that Ramos was left out to dry, wasn't supported by those parties that are supposed to have his back. So when you start talking about money and not getting compensated enough and unions
Teamsters.
and how.
See, here's the thing, though.
Come on now.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying you're right. Like, let's keep that going.
Here's the thing. They're not trying to form new unions now because of that. They've been trying to form unions. They're using this as a platform to bring that to light because nobody ever gave a fuck about them trying to form unions. Because you're getting $450.
Because you're getting $450 at one of the majors.
Which is one of the reasons,
high end, though.
Which is one of the reasons why I brought that up. It's like it's $450. Like, there are people who would love to get paid $450 just to sit in a chair and chill.
Well, after the scrutiny that he took, trust and believe that price is going up.
Yep.
And they're all right with that.
All right. Time for Moments in Hand Egg, also known as our history segment. And we've got two sort of discussions that we're going to do. The first one, considering that we're discussing the Oakland Raiders, who will be playing the Seattle Seahawks. I believe that's week 7. That is the game that we will be attending in London. We did 2 weeks ago talk about the Mount Rushmore for the Seattle Seahawks. We'll pick up that conversation now talking about the Oakland Raiders, who I think for me, it was a little bit difficult because the Raiders are a storied franchise with a lot of really great players.
A lot of personality.
A lot of history.
They're right.
A lot of history.
One player that we all settled on, and we will start the discussion here, was Mr. Marcus Allen, who is a Trojan. Fight on.
Hide your daughters.
And it's funny because I know, like, when, I remember Marcus playing, more so for me because of my age. I remember the tail end of his career, which involved a lot of splinters in his butt. And then also with the Kansas City Chiefs. But for me, one of the things that really stood out was that if you talk to a lot of Raiders, like old school Raiders, and if you talk to a lot of fans of the organization, they don't really give Marcus that much credit because of what he did after leaving the Raiders, namely going to the Kansas City Chiefs.
And beef is real.
Yeah.
But that was a decision that something you would do when the organization fucks you.
We'll talk about it, Redo.
I mean, like, why wouldn't I go to my enemy? Like, I definitely am a petty motherfucker. And if I'm having a Hall of Fame career.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Say it ain't
King
so.
Petty. If I'm having a Hall of Fame career and I don't have any options except to wait for free agency, what was it, 3 years where he sat on the bench?
Yeah.
Of course, I'm going to the number 1 or number 2 enemy, whoever's going to have me, so I can play against y'all asses twice a year.
Yeah.
And show you, because that first year, he killed him.
Yep.
Kev?
Yeah, Omar, that's what got me in prepping for the show. It almost got upset, and I mean Les can speak to it more than anybody, but I got upset looking at how great Marcus Allen was, and then how the Raiders treated him towards the tail end. It wasn't necessarily like his play declined drastically. I mean, of course, he got older like most running backs, but what he gave that team, I mean, Kenyon mentioned USC Trojan, Heisman Trophy winner. He won Rookie of the Year, MVP in his second season. Like, dude was all around talented and never left any play on the field. And for them to just dick him like that, I was happy to see, him go to the Chiefs, and then every time he played them, he put his foot in their ass. I think he won like 9 of the 10 games he played against them.
Well, it wasn't it was him.
I was about to say, let's be clear. There was a specific individual.
The Raider.
Les, what stood out to you about the career of Marcus Allen?
He did everything.
Yes.
I mean, he won every offensive award you can win. Super Bowl MVP, regular season MVP, offensive player, everything. Rookie of the Year, everything. And he played fullback for Bo Jackson. I mean, just think about that.
And he gave up 30 pounds.
So I mean, he literally laid everything on the line for them, and because of a contract dispute,
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
yeah, it might have been something else going on, but
Foreshadowing.
Hide your daughters.
he was basically sat down and was like, "You're not gonna play," and the Raider would actually make it where he didn't want him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wanted to basically stop his career.
He sacrificed throughout his whole career. I mean, they did similar things at USC, changed his position. He's the second person in college history to rush for 2,000 yards. And when he retired, he was 4th all time on the rushing list, having set
5 years.
Yeah.
That's real shit right there. He sat for 5 years and he retired 4th on the
Even
list.
when he was done and he was still in Kansas City, he was the best 1-yard running back I've ever seen in my life. They would hit him at the line of scrimmage, and he would fall forward. I'd never seen anything like that. He never got. It was like he would not get tackled behind the line of scrimmage.
It also helps being 6'2". He's one of the taller. He's one of the taller. He's on the taller scale when it comes to running backs. The first draft pick of the Los Angeles Raiders. He was the first draft pick in that organization. Was there for 11 years. For me, I was just like, he represents the conflict that objective football fans have about Al Davis. Like, if you want to look at the personification of, man, Al Davis was this, but he was that, you just look at Marcus Allen and that story, and he represents that. And so that's why, for me, I thought he's a good figure on the Raiders Mount Rushmore. The Johnson brothers, you had a certain coach on your Mount Rushmore, Mr. Art Shell. Dad, talk about it.
Well, before he was a coach, let's talk about his Hall of Fame playing career.
True story.
2 Super Bowl wins, 8-time Pro Bowler, 2 times he was first team All-Pro.
Who do you play for?
He played for the Raiders.
You need to say that.
We're talking about the Raiders.
Hey, he didn't specify.
Oh my God.
You said let's talk about his all-playing career.
Nope. We got to get that.
All right, so let me resume.
I'm going to go again.
So he played left tackle, and he played next to another Hall of Famer that we're going to get into. But to be lost your whole
Kevin, say your brother, please.
Kevin, jump in,
He
please.
was also on the all 70s, the 70s all decade team. And then you look at just what his contemporaries said about him. The Raiders exec, Ron Wolf said that outside of Marcus Allen, who of course we just talked about, Art Shell was the best player that the franchise ever had in his opinion. I mean, you look at his tape, he was a great athlete. For his size, he could get out in space. He had great footwork. They brought him in to stop Kenyon's Chargers, Fred Dean, and
Stop lying.
He did just that. In the Super Bowl, he dominated the Vikings' Jim Marshall. I mean, he was a non-factor. But for me, I look more so, the reason, for me, him and Gene Upshaw were like 1A, 1B. But the reason I went with Art Shell was because he also coached the Raiders 5 winning seasons, 3 playoff appearances, and won Coach of the Year in 1990. And to be able to succeed as a coach under Al Davis is a fucking accomplishment.
Well, many would argue that Al Davis was really the coach. He was just carrying out the orders.
Even still, he was the first black.
He had to
head
work
coach
with him.
Right,
in NFL
which
history.
again is we're gonna get to it.
Yeah, we're gonna get there.
Right.
Yeah. I know one thing I remember about Art Shell is that he came from the Andy Reid School of Game Management. He didn't understand how to save his timeouts.
I was about to say that's not a compliment.
Yeah. We'll stay with you, Kev. You and Junior Blue had a certain Irishman on the Mount Rushmore for the Oakland Raiders, Mr. Tim Brown.
I did, yeah. You look at the list of wide receivers that the Raiders drafted, and it's amazing that they got Tim Brown right. Les can attest to all the failures. But
Hey, I don't think this is supposed to be that negative.
But no, Tim was the definition of a playmaker, man. He could do it all around from receiving to returning punts. He had 9 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. He passed Gene Upshaw to become the Raiders' all-time leader in games played at 224. And he currently holds the franchise record for, of course, like I said, seasons played, total touchdowns, receiving yards, catches, touchdowns, punt returns, all-purpose yards, yards from scrimmage. And he did all of this while playing with, arguably, within that time frame, the worst of the Raiders quarterbacks. So imagine if he would have had a solid quarterback for the majority of his career.
That was like my major point. I mean, he spent 5 seasons with Rich Gannon, 4 with Jay Schroeder, 4 with Jeff Hostetler, 2 with Jeff George. He caught touchdown passes from Vince Evans, Ty Marinovich, Billy Joe Hobart, and Marcus Tuiasosopo.
Oh shit!
And he didn't stutter.
I mean, he's 7th all time in receiving yards, 19th all time touchdowns, total touchdowns. I mean, he was a hog when we didn't have many.
With no gloves. All right, so we're going to take a quick break here because all of us, we all had some of the same guys, but one of the ambassadors, and you can take a quick guess on who it is. He had his own collection of Mount Rushmore folks. He did have Marcus Allen, but Redo, you had, and I'll just go down the line. You had Amy Trask, you had John Gruden, and you had Khalil Mack. Please explain.
Well, I feel like the lady should have got a little love today, so I'm going to go with Amy Trask, mainly because she was the first CEO of an NFL team. She started as an intern in 83, and by 97, she was a CEO. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
They called her the Princess of Darkness.
Princess of Darkness. She wrote a book entitled "You Negotiate Like a Girl." And right now, she currently serves as the chairman of the board of the Big Three organization.
That's right.
Now, John Gruden, the reason why I chose him is because when you sign a $100 million 10-year contract, the history of the Raiders cannot be told until that contract is up. And it's going to be split down the middle with Khalil Mack because he traded the best defensive player in the league. So they're going to both be up there at the same time.
And who did they trade Khalil Mack to, Omar?
The Chicago Bears.
All right, back to reality.
Hey, it's a little hate. All my Raiders fans been rubbing me the wrong way this week.
I hope they've been women.
Pause.
Les, Kev, and myself, we had a certain video gamer on the list, Mr. John Madden. And the only thing I want to say about Madden is that this man, he did it in 10 years. He did it all in 10 years.
I'm out.
And I'm out. Right. Junior Blue?
76% winning percentage
In 10 years.
in 10 years. Most wins of any Raider coach
In
ever.
10 years.
And against the who were considered the best coaches in the time, he had a winning record. So you talk about Landry, Shula, Noel, and Bud Grant. He had a winning record against all of them. And he came up, and he's the face of Madden.
The only football game you can play.
That's it.
Right.
If you want names,
A lot of kids today have no idea he
No
was a
idea.
Raiders
They
coach.
have no idea he's Raiders coach.
They just know him
half
as
of them don't even know that he was a great broadcaster.
Yep.
Yep.
And he loved Al Davis. He was a Raider through and
He
through.
did draw penises on the screen several times, but we're gonna go past that.
they took that away from him.
Oh my God.
Boom.
I just watched the tape.
It's only one Omar, and you need to stop.
Kev, you got anything else about Madden?
Yeah, I picked him for all of those reasons that Les said. But he's promoted as a head coach at 32, who was the youngest in the league at that time. 5 AFC title games in 7 years. Got the ship, and he never had a losing record. I mean, for me, that's what stood out. And then, of course, the Madden franchise that revolutionized gaming. It's just there's no way we can talk about the Raiders without John Madden.
He's a product of the Sid Gilman tree, Sid Gilman coaching tree. He was heavily influenced by Don Coryell, who also came from the Sid Gilman, which that whole offensive philosophy is air it out down the field, which we know that Al Davis loved. We've got next myself as well, Les and Dev has another sportscaster on the list. Mr. Howie Long. Dad, talk about Mr. Long.
Well, he's one of my favorite Raider players. Like, growing up watching him, he was just a different kind of beast. Like, if you looked at him on the field, like the sheer size. Super Bowl champ, obviously. He's a Hall of Famer. First team all 80s defense. First team. That means he's on one end. The other end is Reggie White, and he's in front of Bruce Smith. So that means that he was doing the damn thing. Mm-hmm. My biggest thing was his career after the fact, becoming a movie star, basically.
Firestorm.
And a pitchman, and being on the inaugural Fox pregame show, which was the first ever hour-long show, and Fox's first foray into NFL, because they I believe CBS lost it, and Fox picked up the NFC. So he's been there since day one, since 1994.
The flat top for me is what I remember, the flat top. And, with the Raiders, I think I would say with the iconic teams, there are certain jersey numbers that stand out. You see silver and black 75, it's Howie Long, right? As a player, versatility. So you talked about, Dev, that, one end is Howie Long, on the other end is Reggie White. Howie Long played across the entire line. He was a dominant player. He was actually NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 1985. Junior Blue?
I don't really have nothing else. Did y'all see Firestorm?
No.
I did.
That's why that career didn't last long. He got up in the booth.
He went
and
to
it
the
was a
booth
wrap.
right away.
It was a wrap. So yeah, but Howie Long was great. I mean, 13 years as a Raider, never played for another squad. Like you said, I remember him more playing the defensive tackle.
Yep.
Because he used to wreak
too
havoc.
fast.
Yeah. And get in the backfield. So, I mean, 13 sacks from a defensive tackle position. I mean, he was a hawk.
Dev, you had Mr. Gene Upshaw, who is somebody, I thought about him, but then I thought about all the shit that he did as the player, and I was like, he can't be on the Mount Rushmore.
Wait, look,
But
what do you mean?
But you, again, with our segment following up, like, that's just the Raider way, baby. So,
Shit.
Hall of Famer. He was the guard next to Art Shell, and
Yeah.
they two Hall of Famers at the same time, just dominating the left side. 6-time Pro Bowler, 3 times first team. He's the first full-time guard to get inducted in the Hall of Fame. And let's not forget that he was executive director of the NFLPA. But we're talking about the good stuff, so we won't mention about the stuff he did in his tenure. But what was interesting, he was the first player to make a Super Bowl in 3 different decades. The other 2 to do it were Jerry Rice and Bill Romanowski,
Interesting.
who were also Raiders.
They were also Raiders at one point. I had Jim Otto. So going back to what I was saying about Howie Long, certain teams with jersey numbers, iconic. You see 0-0, you think of Mr. Otto. Jim Otto literally gave his body to the Raiders.
Not the whole body.
Oh, the whole body. I believe he had 28 knee replacements. He played in 308 straight games. He was the last member of the 1960, the original Raiders team in 1960. He was the last member of that group to retire. He got them their first ever Super Bowl. He was a center, by all accounts, a very physical, dominant player. But yeah, he literally gave his entire body. I think his right leg today is amputated.
Yeah, and it's emblazed with the Raiders. No, really, and he shows it to everybody.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You're not playing.
What do you call that? The part of his leg that's
Amputated?
No,
the thigh.
The part. He's walking on it.
The prosthetic.
The prosthetic is emblazoned with the Raiders logo.
We finally got there.
You didn't.
I didn't.
All right. So no Brexit boot bag winner this week, but we do have a winner for our segment that is aptly titled "Get the Fuck Out of Here with That Bullshit." Kevin, take it away.
This week, guys, our Get the Fuck Out of Here with That Bullshit award goes to none other than Les's $100 million man, John Gruden.
Keeping it Raiders.
Let's rewind back to about a week and a half ago when the Oakland Raiders traded linebacker Khalil Mack to the Chicago Bears. Gruden spoke on the issue last night, and I quote, "Khalil Mack didn't want to play here. But according to reports, Gruden never met with Mack in person since he was hired in January. Now, let's step in when I'm wrong here. Never picked up the phone to call him to talk about his future with the Raiders. And you look at last night, Gruden leads a Raider team that has the pressure to win now, at least in Les's eyes, with a defense that's already devoid of playmakers. Now, Mack has made history in 2015, becoming the first player named All-Pro in 2 different defensive positions in the same year. And he's so good that without participating in training camp or preseason or not putting a helmet on for the last 9 months, he came out for the Bears on Sunday Night Football, didn't he, Omar? And recorded a sack, a fumble recovery, an interception for a touchdown. I believe this was all in the first half, right?
Correct. Yeah, because you didn't call his name in the second half.
True. There's a reason for that, too. Now, Mack won Defensive Player of the Year in that one game. And the Raiders, on the other hand, they started strong, in their game, but had no answer for the Rams in the second half, as they were outscored 23-0 by the Rams. And after only hitting the Rams quarterback twice the whole game, Gruden said, "We didn't get to Jared Goff enough," and, quote, "we'll take a good look at the reason why we didn't." Maybe because you traded away the best linebacker in football and what you got back for him isn't on the fucking field yet.
He got back a TBD, Kev.
Yep.
Kenyon.
He got back a TBD.
We can all say in unison, Mr. John Gruden, please.
Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit.
With that bullshit. Les, get your boy, yo.
Get your mans.
You tripping.
You wasn't out here, but I told them before he was traded, there was no way we were paying him QB money. None. He got $90 million. We need pressure on the quarterback from somebody like Arden Key. He wasn't talking about somebody who's making $24 million a year. And that's the way it goes. Because nobody in here can name a squad that got 2 players on their squad that make $20 million a year.
Yet.
It's not coming soon.
That day is coming.
The cap
Maybe 3 years from now.
All right, let's get back to our moments in hand deck history. We've kind of alluded to it, but there's no way that you can talk about the history of the Oakland Raiders and not discuss Mr. Al Davis. A complicated legacy, to say the least. And the question I have for you guys, for someone that could both be described as petty, yet compassionate, a football savant, but a micromanager. He was a winner, but he was also stubborn as fuck. He's a historian, but you could also say he was outdated. Was Al Davis a gift or a curse to the Raiders organization? I'll start with you, Junior Blue.
I kind of feel like this episode has a thing.
Well, I felt like he was a gift and a curse. I mean, you look at all the stuff that he did. I mean, starting from the 1960s.
Okay.
You know, he wouldn't play in areas of the country, in cities of the country, if they didn't allow the black players to stay in the same hotels as the white players.
Because he knew where his bread was buttered.
He did know that. Mobile, Alabama, wouldn't play there. He did a lot. I mean, he's the only owner. He went from an assistant coach to a coach to an executive to a commissioner of the AFL to an owner. He's the only executive to ever do that. He, in his younger days, was able to draft. Now I'm gonna start this portion as being a fan part.
Okay.
I started being a Raider fan about 83, 84. Great year. Great. Hey, it is what it
got
is.
here on the scene.
But he was a general manager up until the time that he died at 82. All right.
Some say he died 10 years earlier.
He looked it. But as a fan, you know, his whole thing was the biggest, the fastest, the strongest. He was the ultimate combine guy.
Yeah.
Whoever was the biggest, fastest, stronger, that's who I want on my team.
Yeah.
As the game got more sophisticated, getting the biggest and fastest and strongest didn't always work. You know, in the 80s when he was drafting in the first round, Marcus Allen. In the 70s, Willie Brown, when he got him as a free agent, Willie Brown.
Real quick, funny thing. Marcus Allen said that Al asked him one question before he drafted him. He said, how many pounds do you weigh?
How much do you weigh?
And that's what he was. But
You
now,
know the answer?
as the game got more sophisticated, West Coast offenses, things started to change. He didn't change. And I wanted 2 out of his last 3 draft picks. Jamarcus Russell.
Trash.
And a receiver who couldn't catch.
Bricks.
Darius Hayward.
Hayward Bay.
That was his last. That was his last draft pick. And why? Because he ran a 4.2. He was 6'3".
And what number did he draft him?
Number 6.
And I want to say they laughed at the Raiders when they drafted him.
I laughed when they drafted him. I mean, it made no sense. So I mean, he was a gift for a while. And then he turned into our curse.
It's the tale of two like 40 years, like from early on through the 90s, and then after the 90s, it was just totally different because he wouldn't adjust.
And the league hated him. He had more lawsuits.
He was 1-1 though, right?
Yeah, and then Irwindale, he robbed them for $50,000.
Yeah.
Kev?
But see, that disconnect for me, though, is where I think the old Batman adage comes in, right, for Al Davis. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. And like you said, Kent, he was just there too long. And he was in control and overstayed his welcome, which to me, of course, I end up going with, you know, I think he's a curse because of how his legacy ended there. Kind of like, he's like the drunk uncle at the family function. Like the first 2 hours, he's laughing, joking, everybody's having a great time. But then as the night goes on, you realize he's a fucking alcoholic. he may have abused one of your cousins. The point is that it's really how you go out. And I think that's how, especially for the younger generation, you got social media, all kinds of things that keep people's legacy intact or destroy them. And I think for us younger folks that weren't there for those glory days, this is how Al Davis is remembered.
Yeah, for me, it's a gift and a curse because you can't have light without the dark. And see what I did there. And you can't tell the story of the NFL without Al Davis. Literally, like the way that it's constructed now, from him being the commissioner of the AFL and being used as basically a prop to engage and win the war versus the NFL when they were trying to negotiate a merger anyway. He was sent out there to be aggressive and try and hurt the NFL. But you look at the things that he's done for the game, helping create that, and then you look at the shit that he did, like moving the team multiple times.
Which I'm surprised as a Baltimore Ravens fan that you actually are into, because him moving the Raiders franchise is what allowed a guy like Art Modell to say, hey, it's 11:30, they sleep. Let's get the trucks out. He set that.
He's a gift and a curse.
He set that
He
precedent.
is definitely a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
Like towards the end, after he drafted Jamarcus, and somebody asked him, should you have drafted Calvin Johnson instead of Jamarcus? Mm-hmm. His exact quote was, there was some talk of Calvin Johnson, but you can take a look at Calvin up at Detroit. How many games did they win this year? Detroit, do you know? 6? Yeah, but up until now, Calvin hadn't done anything for them. He had been eulogized, but he hadn't made a lot of indelible impression on the won and lost. That is an exact quote.
What?
That sounds like
sounds
Al
like Al
Davis drunk.
What? Eulogized?
Yes. But he hadn't made an indelible... This was Calvin Johnson in his prime when he did this.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I looked at he has an interesting dynamic. We've been foreshadowing this for a while, but with the players that he did draft or did get success from, and that started from the time he got hired as a coach. I think the owner at the time was Wayne Valley, said that we need someone who wants to win so badly they'll do anything. Which obviously he'll move his team, he'll pick up guys, he'll do those things. But he went from someone who wanted to win so badly to someone that wanted to be right. More than he wanted to do anything, which I think led to the issues he had with Marcus Allen and then even with Kenny Stabler.
you talk about doing anything to win. He even traded his Hall of Fame quarterback to his number one rival in the conference. And then that shit wound up working out. That was a blessing in disguise because the person that they traded for wound up getting hurt and then comes in Plunkett.
Was he the first person to trade his coach?
He might be.
Ask John Gruden. He know.
But you know what? Because we gave up 2 first-round picks for him.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's almost turned into a shitting on session. But he is also the first person to make a woman CEO of an NFL team.
Amy
He's
Trask,
also
Art Shell.
hired the first black coach, first Latino coach.
Second Latino coach.
Second Latino coach. Like, he has been on the forefront of a lot of things, and he's also challenged the NFL whenever they were in their old boy network and wanted to do something different.
If you think of the word trailblazer, and if you just think of the imagery that goes along with that, that's exactly who Al Davis was. He literally set shit on fire, but he also blazed a trail forward.
One more thing I think we need to speak on is because since they are going to London, is the fact of the uniqueness of the Raider mystique and what they created with their fans.
Raider Nation.
It is undeniably different than everyone else.
Yep.
Being able to mobilize and the loyalty, it is deep. And even with that, and I mean, it's this conflict, I think, is consistent throughout. You look at, like I said, Marcus Allen, even the Raider Nation, like, you want a fan base that is as loyal and is as intense as
Loyal
Raider Nation.
is the key word.
But here's But here's the thing, though.
They had to be.
You can run up in the black hole if you want to, and talk loose if you want to.
It ain't a good idea.
You will lose your life. So again, it's just that conflict throughout that I think Al Davis is emblematic of. Yeah, Kev.
I think that's what attracts most people, even people that, aren't from the area. Y'all remember when we were over in London at the game, the dude who we called London Nick, who was dressed from head to toe in Raider gear?
Yes.
I think I was drunk, so I couldn't remember his reasoning, but I'm pretty sure he said he was just drawn to just the way the Raiders were associated with like hip hop and West Coast at the time.
Yes.
He just loved the aura of it.
Yeah.
And you don't get that with many franchises.
the
If you're in the
Star
stadium,
jacket.
Ice Cube has a theme song.
That's right.
Yep.
It's just a different vibe.
That's right. Well, that was great. Really great discussion. Let's get to our football tea, aka hot topics, and this one is rapid fire. Best team from week 1. I will get it started by saying, for me, it was the Rams. I thought the Rams were the most complete team. They hit on all points. Dad, your best team.
I got the Eagles. Big win. They don't even have all their pieces. That's if they can keep it going.
Red O.
I will say the Rams, but I think we need to just say hallelujah to the Bucks for their performance in week 1.
They did give up 40, Omar.
God, they weren't supposed to win that game.
Junior
Fitz
Blue.
Magic.
I actually had the Chiefs.
Really?
I had the Chiefs
good
because
game.
they went on the road.
Right? Don't insult my team like that.
Is it? So they went on the road, and we had questions about Patrick Mahomes, and he showed up, and they didn't have Eric Berry either, and they still got the job done.
Kev?
Well, of all of the teams that won last week, only the Bucks, Dolphins, and our Ravens beat playoff teams from last year. But I'm going with the Vikings. I think they looked the most complete. Both sides of the ball, they were able to have a tandem running game for Kirk Cousins to set up the play action. So they looked as good as advertised.
Kev, I'll stay with you. Biggest disappointment from week 1.
Unanimous.
Well, don't let that shit on Monday and Sunday distract you from the fact the fucking Falcons are who we thought they were the last 2 years. I'm done with them, man. I'm done.
Red O.
Saints defense.
I'm with
Jesus.
you.
Yeah,
I- I-
Saints.
Yeah, yeah.
Saints.
I'm with
Unanimous.
you. Yeah.
LA unanimous.
Yeah.
Fitzmagic had 400 plus yards, 4 TDs to 6 different players.
Yo,
And a
and he had a rushing,
rushing
and a rushing
touchdown.
his ass over. From like 15 yards.
Hey, did you say 4 touchdowns to 6 players?
No. 21 receptions to 6 players.
Oh, hey, that's called gentleman jack math right there.
That's virtually impossible.
Let's stay with Tampa Bay, and we'll bring Buffalo into this conversation. 2 different situations, 2 different reasons, but I think after week 1, both have quarterback conundrums. What should they do? We will start with, since we're talking about Tampa Bay, Jameis Winston suspended for 3 games because he's a bonehead. Ryan Fitzpatrick had a great game. He's a consistent presence, and by consistent I mean
That took his whole soul.
I mean he'll have a really good game like what he had on Sunday, and consistently he'll come back the next week and he'll shit the bed. However, I think it's more about Jameis Winston and the fact that he struggles with decision making on the field. He routinely leads the league in interceptions. He clearly has an issue with making the right decisions off the field. He's coming up on the end of his rookie deal. Dirk Cutter was really excited about what Fitzmagic was doing on Sunday. Kev, do you stay with Fitzmagic or do you go back to Jameis? How do you navigate that situation if you're Dirk Cutter?
I would stick with Fitzpatrick until the time comes where you ultimately have to save him from himself, because we know it's coming. It's just a matter of when. And the hope is that lasts until Jameis can come back, and then it's his job to lose. And I think you'll know, based on how he plays the rest of the season, what you have to do when the season's over, whether you re-sign him or you start over and get a new quarterback, which I think will be the case.
Redo?
Same thing. He has 3 weeks left, right?
2.
2 weeks. He'll show himself. If he wins the next 2 games or plays his ass off the next 2 games, I think you stick with him. Because it's not like Jameis hasn't had time. He's had enough time to show who he really is, and he keeps showing his ass.
Dad, if you're Jason Litt, how are you dealing with Jameis this upcoming offseason?
Well, I think it depends on these next 2 games, because if the Bucks are 3-0 or 2-1, then if you're Dirk Cutter, you're trying to keep your fucking job. You keep it rolling until he can't save himself, right? But they play the Steelers and the Eagles the next 2 games,
Okay.
right?
Right.
So
Jameis
I think you bring Jameis back, and it's fuck or walk, and you let him play out this year. And if it's the same old same, that's it.
Now, let me ask you a question, Les. Fuck or walk. I'm with you. I think you're hitting the nail on the head. But we know how the quarterback contracts go, right? It's next man up gets the loot. How are you approaching Jameis this offseason then?
This offseason, he still has one more year. They have a 5th-year option on him. First round draft pick, you have the 5th year
So we're going to
option.
Blake Bortles him.
Exactly. If he shows out for 13 games, then they might pay him in the offseason. Or they might make him prove it the next year. If he's shit, if he's trash, then they'll be looking for somebody. They'll draft somebody and he'll be behind James.
Just tell him don't eat no more W's.
I don't think they're paying him.
That's funny.
I don't think if he balls out this year, they're still going to make him play.
Next year.
Yeah. I don't think he gets a contract.
Real talk, I think if he shits the bed when he comes back, I don't think he's going to get another job in the NFL. I remember a guy named Josh Freeman, and that went quick.
Whoa. That's a throwback.
Buffalo Bills. Speaking of going quick, the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, shit.
Okay, here we go. Nate Peterman. They bring him on last year.
Nasty Nate.
Sean McDermott, out of the blue, says, you know what? We're not going with Tyrod, even though they were winning games. We're going to go with Nate Peterman. What does he do? Throws 5 interceptions to the San Diego or to the LA Chargers. We'll stay there. We'll come back to that in about 10 minutes. They start the season, actually come into the season with A.J. McCarron. They trade for A.J. McCarron. Nate Peterman, they draft Josh Allen. Come out of camp, they trade A.J. McCarron. They say, no, we're going with Nate Peterman. And Nate Peterman promptly goes out this Sunday and has a QB rating of 15. Their offensive line is god-awful. Okay? They've got the rookie who they don't want to play because the offensive line is what? God-awful.
Is that the only reason why they don't want to play him?
I think that's the reason why they don't want to play him.
And because Calvin Benjamin is his #1 receiver.
So the question is this, though. What are you doing? What are you recommending? How do they get themselves out of this conundrum?
Well, I watched the entire game. And
Why would you do that?
I don't know. It's
Maybe
Sunday.
the Ravens were playing.
They better not do that to that boy. This is Nate Peterman's year, and they better let Josh Allen sit behind him. I don't care how bad he looked. If they put that boy out there, and we discussed this on Sunday, he's going to be the next David Carr.
Yep.
And then that's it. And then you wasted a top 7 draft pick.
He just needs good insurance. Medical insurance.
Nasty Nate is a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
I heard somebody say in my ear, I don't know who it was, but they was like, man, Colin Kaepernick would really help the Buffalo.
Oh, that was you.
I would never wish that on a young guy.
That would be.
You don't want that smart. I've seen Buffalo play for 4 hours. That shit is terrible.
Wouldn't that be a conspiracy theory, though?
That's collusion.
That would be collusion, for real.
Right.
I'm old enough to remember when there were pundits saying that Allen should be the #1 quarterback taken in the draft. We know that was a lie.
There's some tweets that came out.
Finally, in hot topics, new coaches this week went 0-7 in week 1. Frank Wright, Mike Vrabel, Pat Shurmur, Steve Wilkes, Matt Nagy, Matt Patricia, you suck, and John Gruden. Why is that, Kev? What happened?
Because they all coached against better teams. I didn't see the only game where Tennessee should have beat the Dolphins. I know you went lone wolf on them, Kenyon, but it's a division game. It's a toss-up. Every other game, they were just playing against better competition.
Delaney Walker's foot came off.
Yeah,
And Mariota got hurt. And they had a 4-hour delay.
Yeah.
Or two.
It was a weird
two-plus-hour
game.
delays.
It was a weird game.
That was a long game.
Yeah.
Definitely long.
That
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think 2 teams had inferior rosters, Cards and Indy. 2 had veteran QBs that played like trash, the Raiders and the Lions. 2 had bad offensive game plans, the Giants and the Bears. And 1, the Titans just had a shit ton of injuries at the back and in the weather.
How about the fact that all of these guys are play callers? And it's hard to manage a game and to focus on the entire team and also call plays. And maybe that's the issue. And
Andy Reid.
And also when you look at it, I also think there's something to be said for this preseason attitude of not wanting to play players extensively in the preseason and guys not being sharp. So your attention to detail, it slacks up.
There was a lot of teams who played players in the preseason whose attention to detail. I just don't agree with that one. I mean, the Jaguars defense is insanely good. That's a hard team to play against you. You're first time head coach. The coach
He's not a first time head coach though. He coached in Cleveland.
Right. The Jaguars defense is one of the best in the league. They have a 37-year-old quarterback who I don't believe in. The Colts just suck ass. And that's not in question for anybody. The Tennessee game was insane because of the delay. The Raiders, they needed Khalil Mack. They didn't have Khalil Mack.
Like that would have made the difference.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Khalil Mack can't do nothing for Derek
We
Carr's
needed
arm.
Derek Carr. That's what we needed.
Not the scouting report, Derek Carr either.
And I've screamed it forever. Stafford is going to Tony Romo up a game twice a year. He does it every season. Next week he's going to make Detroit look great.
I mean, only two of them were favored, and that was the Titans, and we already talked about their issues, and the Lions. So I mean, when you're not favored, you're not the better team. So for them not to win, I don't think that was big. And the Lions, I don't know what the hell that was. I don't know what they
I think
did.
only Kenyon was supremely confident.
That was an 11-5. That was not a game won.
The Jets can play the Lions 10 times in Detroit. The Jets are going to beat them.
Wow.
They're the better team.
Well, let's talk about teams getting beat. We're going to go to our brand new segment that we introduced last week, which is All In with Ken, which is presented and sponsored by MyBookie. That's MyBookie. And we have a promotional code of 32KR, a minimum deposit of $50, and listen to my man's picks and get that money, man.
All right, we went 2-1 last week because the Giants, they didn't quite cover. We'll rebound this week, starting with Minnesota, Green Bay. The total line is 46. Take the under. Since Mike Zimmer has been the coach of the Minnesota Vikings, the average total in those games has been 39, and 6 of the 8 games have gone under 46. We've got a shaky Aaron Rodgers. We've got a really good Minnesota defense. Take the under at 46. In our Funky Monkey game of the week,
the Funky Monkeys is coming.
the Los Angeles Chargers get to play, guess who? The Buffalo Bills. Pick them to cover. I believe the line is 7. They are road favorites, 7. They are going to beat the dog shit off of Buffalo. Pick the Chargers to cover. And then finally, in our straight-up game, I like the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to have 10 days off because they played Thursday, and they play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I got 2 words for you. Let down. Let down. If you saw the locker room, how happy that locker room was when Tampa Bay beat the Saints, you'll know they're going to come and lay an egg. Philadelphia be ready for them. So that's the under, Minnesota, Green Bay. That's the Chargers to cover, and then that's Philly to win straight up. Once again, go to MyBookie, MyBookie. Put in that promo code 32 Kings Road.
32KR.
32KR. Sorry, thank you. 32KR. $50 minimum, and they'll match it up to 100%. All right? Let's, before we get out of here, get through our game picks. We've got, first of all, the Kansas City Chiefs traveling to Pittsburgh to go against the Steelers. These are our picks. We're starting our new season of competition. We've got Kevin and Les in the lead, but it's early. Everybody's relatively close. Chiefs, Steelers, Dad, who you got?
I got the Steelers in the bounce back game, and they're at home, 31-21.
Red O.
Chiefs.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I think they're gonna shock and show the world that they real.
There's a reason why he's always at the bottom.
Yep,
Let's
go.
Steelers.
And that's the Bears.
Damn. Steelers. I got Steelers.
Kev.
Chiefs haven't won in Pittsburgh since '86, so I'm picking the Chiefs. Let's go, Omar.
Yeah, I've got this. Whoa. All right. No, I got the Steelers. We've got Saints at home against the Cleveland
Didn't
Browns.
matter last week.
Cleveland Browns, hey, they got out of the loss column. They didn't get in the win column.
Undefeated.
They are undefeated.
Best start since 2004.
Kev, who you taking? That's funny.
They will be defeated next year.
Redo.
Saints.
Dad.
Saints with a bounce back.
Saints.
No one's taking the Browns?
You?
No, I'm definitely not. Definitely not. Drew Brees knows who Greg Williams is very well.
Intimately.
And he's going to take advantage of those blitzes. Young secondary. I like the Saints. Finally, I think in the game of the week, I think the Thursday night matchup, Ravens-Bengals, is a very good game. I think this game also a rematch of the AFC Championship. You've got the New England Patriots going to Jacksonville to see the Jaguars. Junior Blue, who you got?
Jags.
Dad.
I got Jags at home, 2014.
You got Jags at home. Redo?
Patriots. Belichick plays very well against Pete Carroll's defense, and this is basically Pete Carroll's defense.
Kev?
If it rains, Jacksonville. If not, the Patriots.
I like the Patriots. I don't know about Pete Carroll's defense, but I do know that the way to attack Jacksonville's defense is, again, running back out of the backfield, which they do a lot of that. James White, Rex Burkhead, and the tight end, which is Mr. Gronkowski. Also, a Gimpy Fournette, who I don't believe will play. It's early in the season. It's a hamstring. You want to, get him well. So, with that, everybody, let's get our shots. This has been a great show. Once again, follow us on social media at The League AM. Check out our website, theleagueam.com. Also, please subscribe and rate our YouTube channel, League Ambassadors. We will see you next week.
And
Cheerio.
Pete Carroll,
The
we see
fucking
you.
monkeys is coming.
Marcus
7
Allen
names,
and
no
OJ
games as I
Gordon.
run it down the line. We got Kenny Ken put 100 on the tees with the streak for the cash. ESPN. Seth Curry with the shot. In reality, he's more like Seth, but he's all we got. Up next is Gentleman Jack, better known as Junior Blue. We told him not to do it anyway, but he did what he do. To his right is Devin, that dude, L-Dad or Dirt Ass Dan. Just don't ask him a question, cause then he'll answer your question with another question, and then he'll add another question on top of that question. Damn. And I'm Red O, the Buck Wild Problem Child.
Flow butter, aka John Cutter.
It's the League Ambassadors, and we playing to win. At the 2-yard line, and make no mistake, we running it in.